So this diagram is called as time, temperature, or transformation diagram. So this is called as TTT diagram, right? One is time. You have time basically on x-axis. The second one is temperature. You have temperature on y-axis. And the third T is for transformation. So these two lines, for example, they are showing you the transformation. How they are showing you the transformation? You have austenite here. So you know that above 727 degrees C, the whole thing is gamma, right? So this purple region is basically everything is gamma. When it cools down quickly, it will pass this region. When, for example, the iron is going to cool, is reducing heat, it will pass this region. The moment it passes these two lines, it means that the transformation has been performed. And when it goes here and it crosses this region, it was unstable austenite because the time is very small. This whole region accounts for the austenite region, right? This whole region, the one you see on this side, this is the stable one. This is very small region. See, if you see the time limit is like 1 second or even less than that. So this is the time spent when it cools down. So this is unstable region of gamma, right? Because the time is very small, 1 second, 2 seconds, something like that. And then it will cross these two lines, the green and the red line. And the moment it crossed the line, this represents transformation, right? So for example, in this case, if you see, I have the same time axis, and I'm talking about this 676 transformation. That temperature is reduced from 727 to 675, this line, this gray line. And here the transformation is started. Like if you put them, it's the same line where the transformation started. This middle is here where the 50% transformation is achieved. And if you go and try to do this thing, this is where the transformation is complete. So on this side, it was gamma, but when it comes on this side, it will become what? Pure light, alpha plus this one. So this transformation diagram can be represented with one diagram that is called TTT diagram, right? So students, this is how you see the transformation together. It started here. See, the starting point is same for both diagrams. 50% conversion is once you hit the 50.5. And then when you finalize the one, this becomes here. So this is basically how you study the transformation, the effect of time and the transformation. Students, make sense how these two diagrams are there to read? Tell me if you have any.
One more time, please. Sorry.
Yes, you understand this one, Yusuf, right?
Yeah, this one I got it, Professor. Yeah,
that's true. Now, what we have this specifically designed diagram that is consistent basically. So if you see this temperature is 676, this gray line, right? I am showing you that if it is going to cool down at this temperature from 727 to this temperature, how the transformation will happen. So it is going to start here. See, the starting point of transformation is same. This is where the transformation started. Then if I go to the 50%, this half of the line here, it shows 50% of the conversion. And then this is where the end point is happening. The total the conversion is happening. This is exactly same here. So technically what I say that when the austenite cools at this and I draw a horizontal line, when I cross this transformation region on the other side, it will become pure light, right? On this side, the whole thing is pure light. On this side, the whole thing is gamma. So it has to cross these two lines, right? That will represent the transformation. These transformation could be here, like for different temperatures. So that's why the diagram is moving here. If you want to study something here, then for example, it will come like this here. If you want to study something here, it will come here. Like with respect to time, the curve has been adjusted. So it depends on that which region you are studying. You need to cross this boundary. Here it will be gamma on this side, and it has to go this side to become pure light. Make sense?
Makes sense, Professor. I got it now. Thank you.
Okay, so they are equivalent. If you see the starting here, the end here, and the final point is here. In this diagram, we just draw it with, we just represent it with a vertical line like this one. Okay, so this is something here. This is students' difference. So if you see, this is going to be a coarse pear light that looks like this under the microscope, and the other one that looks like a fine pear light that's more dense. It's difficult to see, and that is basically the representation of fine pear light. So now the two pear lights, based on the rate, based on, for example, the time involved, that it's slow or fast, you are going to see two different things now, right? And this is what's there under the microscope. This is another representation of the TTT diagram, which is the time, temperature, and transformation curve or diagram. It was gamma here. So students, some of you are confused here in this region, that what is this region, right? So this all region that I have shaded, that is basically the unstable gamma. That is still gamma, but gamma has to change. So that is unstable. It cannot stay like that. So the moment it crosses this boundary, this is where conversion happens. Gamma converts into the laminar structure of pear light. So technically what we say that if somebody asks you, for example, tell me what would be the transformation at 625 degrees C, right? You understand that you need to start from 727, because this is where the gamma will start to change. So you can make a random line here, right? And then you need to cross it horizontally, cross this curve horizontally at the same temperature. This temperature is 625, whatever you are studying, right? And then at this point, you will say that now on the other side, for example, at this much time, it is now converted into pear light completely. So that is something that you need to take into account when you study the transformation curves. Students, make sense? Or if you're not sure, let me know. I will again describe it.
Makes sense to me, but I just want to know the difference between the austenite stable, how it's like completely horizontal line, and then if you look at the austenite unstable,
Yeah.
it's like it's crossing in a border between itself and the alpha.
So you are confused basically again in this region. Think that if I ask you that start from here, like I need to change into red, for example. I ask you that this is where you are currently present, right? Tell me what would happen at 625. So how would you show me the path?
I
What would
draw a
you
line from
draw?
727 to 625.
And this is your estimation, right? You come here or you come here. You need to come to this temperature quickly, right? 626, right? This
Correct.
626 temperature, this is your call. You can bring it very quickly here, you can bring it here, but you need to come to this temperature quickly, right? Again, this quick coming down to this temperature is represented here. See, this is 1 second, or this portion is even less than a second. So it means that you quickly drop the temperature from 727 to here, and now you are keeping that temperature constant, like an isotherm. So that's way what would happen when you keep it constant with respect to time. This will go on the horizontal side. It will start moving like that. The path will go like that, right? Along that path, it will cross this transformation curve at 627, 625. So 625 is the temperature where you need to cross this transformation point, right? So it is going to start when, for example, it's here. This is pure gamma, but that gamma is going to change, right? So that's why I'm calling this unstable, because it will pass through this region, right? The idea of calling it unstable is that it has to cross this transformation curve. I cannot keep it there for that small time, right? The time has to go forward with that temperature, and the moment the time will go, it will cross this transformation curve. The moment it will cross that transformation curve, this transformation will complete. You can see here. So it's pure gamma in the midpoint. Half of that gamma is converted into pear light, and when it comes to the other side of the boundary, the whole thing is pear light, right? So don't confuse yourself. This portion is in your hand. Like when you study, you can simply go from here, like this, and then you can show me this path. So this path has to be drawn by you. Could be like this. Sometimes you can quickly drop it here, and then you can say it's like this. Okay, that would be fine as well. Or you can say quickly came to this temperature, and then you are observing that temperature. So the line can be anywhere, but before transformation, not after transformation. In this region, you can touch anywhere along that temperature. Okay. Yes, Yusuf, makes sense?
Yeah, Professor. Also, the austenite perlite transformation takes under 10 seconds according to this graph, correct?
Yes, that's true. That's true. So if you are cooling down from 727 to this temperature, roughly 625, transformation will start somewhere here, let's say 2 seconds, and it's going to complete maybe somewhere here. Because this is exponential, so this may be around 20 seconds. Right? 10, 20, it's going towards 100. So yes, this is how you can see on the time scale as well. And you remember I told you when delta t is less, when delta t is smaller, you are somewhere here, right? In this region. When delta t is bigger, you are somewhere here, right? Right? Yes, students.
Yeah. Yeah, Professor. Yes.
So when you cross the temperature here and come on this side, because delta T is smaller, this is going to give this region is dedicated for the core sphere light, this upper region of the diagram. If you come quickly to the lower side and then you cross this thing, then this region, the one I put with yellow lines, for example, this region is dedicated for fine peer light. Okay. This is
Makes sense,
valid.
Professor.
This is valid for the temperature 540 temperature. So if you see, like if you're coming and going like this is going to give you peer light, coarse peer light. If you're going to be like this is going to give you fine peer light. And this boundary will stay valid around 450 degrees C. So this is valid if you have a temperature range around 540 degrees C. Then it is going to give you the fine peer light. The question is, what about if you go below 550? Then what would happen? Then the thing is that it's going to give you a different. So this is the same thing what I just said. This is going to give you a peer light, but on the top side, it is going to give you the coarse peer light. If you go around 540, this is going to give you fine peer light. This shows you the same transformation, right? That it started from gamma and then it starts slowly converted into the peer light structure. So students, once you go, this region is 540. We know that above this one, there is a peer light around 525, 625, sorry. So this region we know that is coarse peer light and this one is fine peer light, right? But the whole region belongs to peer light. What about if you cool down quickly to something like 400 degrees C and then you starts to cool, let it cool. Then the transformation didn't happen here. Then the transformation happened in this region that is called as, this is represented by B, and this is called as bainite. This has a name called bainite. So then what you need to say, you need to say that gamma has converted completely, if you're going like this, has completely converted from 727 here to this bainite structure. It didn't give you peer light this time. You have a temperature range. If you cool down above 440, then it gives you peer light. But the moment it is below 450 range, it changes into bainite structure. Bainite structure is different than the peer light structure, right? It has different characteristics. So this is something which is there, right? Bainite is formed at the cooling rate slower than that of martensite. Students, one other thing, if I try to show you this diagram, right, I will come to this thing in a bit. Like this is where I'm going to show you. This is 540 temperature boundary. If you are cooling it above in this region, that goes to 100% peer light. But if it goes to this structure, that gives you 100% bainite. Bainite structure looks different under microscope. For example, see here. So this first one is pearlite structure. That second structure is a bainite structure. It doesn't have that shiny appearance. And if you try to see, the look is not like a laminar look here. It has more like the thicker strains which are there in the bainite. So technically, this gives you a different stress strain behavior. This gives you a different stress strain behavior, right? The properties are different. So here the difference will come. If it's going to cool to this region above 540, it's 100% peer light. If it is below 540 till this region, for example, somewhere till here, so this region is going to give you the transformation of bainite. There is a third possibility as well. There is a third possibility, and that third possibility, I will come to all these things in some time. I need to show you the third possibility. The third possibility is that you start cooling from 727. You didn't go to perlite, you didn't cool to perlite, you simply dropped and you crossed this boundary, the one that is around 200 degrees C, something around a little above 200 degrees C. So all this region here, this is called as martensite. So students, how many possibilities are there of cooling austenite? How many possibilities you see? How many outcomes you see? 3 possibilities, right? Depends. If delta T is small, it will go here. It will give you perlite. If it's mediocre, it will come here. It will give you 100% bainite. And think of that you have the hot metal and you just throw it into the water, where delta T becomes very fast, right? It was 727 here and it quickly dropped to room temperature 25. Quickly, like in 10 minutes, in 10 seconds, sorry. This is something what you have seen in the movies, right? You have seen these movies where you have this sword, they put it out of furnace and then they put it in oil quickly, right? So which operation is happening here? The operation is this one, that it was 727 above that one, and quickly the temperature dropped and come into this region near room temperature in very small time. So this means that the structure you are getting this time is martensite structure. Martensite structure under the microscope has this needle-like appearance. You see that it's not like layers, it's more like you will see that needles are there, right? That needle is more like a carbon content. So this is something which is there. It has a mixture of austenite and the needle structure is more like a martensite structure, right? And what happened here, the thing is that you do not have the time, because it's very fast. So you remember I mentioned 2 types of transformations. The first one was diffusive in the beginning and the other one was displacive, right? So which one is happening here? If it is going to cool in 1 second or 2 seconds, then do you have enough time for the diffusion? Yes, students, do you have the time for the diffusion? If it is happening in the few seconds, it's cooling from 727 to this room temperature very quickly. Do you have enough time for the diffusion in this case for martensite? No. In this case, you don't have time. So this is diffusionless, which means it's the other type of transformation, which is displacive. And what happens? The thing is that here the gamma is FCC structure. When it quickly cools down like this, it converts quickly into a different unit cell structure, right? Which is body-centered tetragonal structure. So it quickly changed into BCT structure, right? As the temperature drops quickly. So here, this is the non-diffusive, or this is displacive type of transformation. All other are with the time dependent. So all other are basically with respect to the diffusion. So these 3 are the possibilities. If somebody asks you that how gamma is going to convert, it can go to perlite, it can go to bainite, and it can come to martensite. Depends how the delta T is there. Or in other words, is it slower process or is it a faster process? Depends on this thing. Should I ask you one thing to conclude the lecture? I will continue from this on this lecture in my next session as well. But now you understand that in phase diagram, you do not see these possibilities, right? If I show you the phase diagram that you have taken in the last chapter, you just see this transformation like this, right? You just see this transformation in a line like this. And you say that gamma is going to convert into this thing, into the eupeptide. But you didn't know that there are more possibilities with respect to time. You don't see this thing in the phase diagram. So you need to go basically to time, temperature, and transformation curve to see the time dependent possibilities. So you see that it can go into perlite, the reaction can go, depends on that whatever the delta T, how quickly you cool it. It can go to the martensite or it can go to the bainite structure. Or sometimes you let it cool in phases. So you let it cool at 650 for some time, then you let it down, cool at 400 for some time. In this case, you can have mixed structure as well. When you drop quickly, cool down in the first step, maybe you will hit the perlite, but maybe you didn't do the complete transformation. You just stopped the transformation somewhere, for example, here in the middle, right? Somewhere here, you just did this transformation and then let it cool again. So in this case, only 50% is converted into perlite. Remaining 50% of austenite will get converted when it crosses this boundary. So you might get 50-50, 50 perlite and 50 bainite in this case. We'll discuss this thing more in our next session. If you have any concern or any question, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm fine for it. Anything, students? Any concern?
But sir, why is martensite not there in the phase diagram?
In this case, sorry.
So why is like in the phase diagram, why is martensite not present?
Phase diagram or this diagram?
On the phase diagram.
No, but in phase diagram, you don't have time. Like if you see the phase diagram, which is this one, you do not have any place for time. You just study the temperature and the composition, right? So in phase diagram, this is one reaction. You don't know the possibilities. In order to understand the possibilities, you need to use in combination this diagram, the one that is here.